There were lots and lots of arcade fighting games in the mid to late 80s, and Shao-lin's Road was one of them. I don't think I ever saw it in the arcade, but I've since played it on MAME, and it's a fast and furious beat 'em up where you jump between levels and you've got several different moves you can play. It's almost like a platformer, kung fu. Ported to the home systems by The Edge. No, not the guitarist from U2. We're starting off on the Amstrad CPC version. I'm guessing that the programmer didn't want to be known because it's by John Doe. So I'm guessing he's programmed this anonymously. Perhaps he was an employed programmer by another software house who did this on the side. And here we go. Looks very similar to the arcade. Very, very narrow screen, and I'm guessing that's to accommodate the scrolling from the arcade version, so your player can start in the middle of the screen. Those balls that sometimes jump out of the enemies are power-ups, and those moon and sun things that go past, if you kick them, you get points. The biggest thing you notice from the arcade version is this game is much slower, and you don't seem to have all the moves. I'm really only getting the kick here when you press fire, and I've got another power up there that fires. They're not lightning bolts, they're fire bolts or something. Each power up only lasts for a certain amount of time. You've got a certain amount of lives as well. You've got guts coming up there. I don't know what that means. He says it at the end of every level. And this on every second level you have one bigger baddie wandering around the entire time, who either has to be killed with one of the missiles or with 3 kicks. The enemies spawn from those generators where you see the flashing from, and after you've killed all the enemies on the level and they've stopped spawning, you've completed it. Nice tune, if slightly repetitive, plays throughout. It's quite fluid, although it's slightly annoying coming over from the arcade that you only seem to have one move. There is also... I'm not sure if there is a second move. It's very incredibly difficult to tell. You certainly haven't got that variety of moves. In effect, you just end up pressing fire and you do this weird goose stepping kick. I can't seem to make it do the flying kick. Which seems to suggest this game is somewhat cut down from the arcade. There we go, killed the baddie there. Should be getting, hopefully, towards the end of this level now. Another power-up. This is a sun power-up that, I say it's a sun, it looks like a sun. It rotates around you, and if an enemy touches it, they die. And there goes a cake going across, which is also gives you bonus points. Now, I should be coming to the end of this level now. Hopefully the enemies have stopped spawning. There's still more. You just don't know when you're going to complete each level, what the conditions are. And the game seems to spawn a certain amount of enemies for each level. And when that threshold is met, and you've killed all the baddies, you go on to the next level. The big spike ball thing there that, I don't know what it is, but you can control it by moving around, so you can bring it back to you. We're on to level 3 now, and this is a temple setting, I guess. Still got the platforms there, and you move around. The thing is, about Shao-lin's Road, you begin to realise it's incredibly repetitive after a while. And we're just moving on to the Spectrum version to see what this version looks like. It's running on Spectrum 48K. Couldn't get this running on my 128. Got the tune on the menu screen. We start off and we don't have a tune when the game's running. Slightly more defined sprites. And again, you've got that weird goose stepping kick. Most odd. Seems to be punching and kicking at the same time if you look at that sprite. Unlike the Amstrad version, this version scrolls when you get to the edge of the screen. It doesn't keep you centred, which can be a pain because you can't always see where the baddies are coming towards you if you're at the very edge of the screen like there. If something came from the right now, you wouldn't have enough warning to be able to do something about it. Ultimately, it's not the same arcade action you get in the arcade. We've got things flying at you from all around. It again, like the Amstrad version, it's all a little bit pedestrian. Graphics are well defined enough, no colour clash going on this level. Even when you pass in front of the reds, it all looks very nice indeed. Lovely loading screen here on the C64. That's wonderful. That looks so nice. And the C64 should certainly be able to sustain some fast arcade action. And yeah, this is much faster than the other two versions. A bit of urgency about the gameplay, even if the sprites are quite small. Like the Amstrad version, we've got a tune playing in the background. Although it's not very nice, actually. I think the SIG is capable of much better than this. It's just, I know the tune's repetitive. There's no nice tone to it. It's all a little bit harsh. I'm wondering if that's a C64C thing, and it might sound better on a C64. But once you play the C64 version for a few minutes, and you finish being impressed with the speed of it being closer to the arcade, you realise you've still got loads of moves missing from the arcade, and I don't think I've seen a power-up yet. No power-up. I've seen the things going past for extra points, but no baddies have dropped any power-ups. And here I am at the end of level 1, and I've not seen a power-up. That's weird. I'm playing the C64 version with a trainer. Forwarded on to level 3, the temple graphics are far nicer than the Amstrad version. This looks really lush. But I still haven't seen a power-up. How could they left the power-up? The power-ups are such an integral part of Shao-lin's Road. And I honestly believe they've left them out. I haven't seen one baddie. I'm on level 3 now. I have not seen one baddie drop a power-up. Not the ball, not the sun thing, not the fireball thing. That's really weird. Why would you go to all this effort of making a game, you know, look this nice, and it plays quite well, the physics are good. The enemies do run around a little bit aimlessly on this version compared to the arcade, but it's still really nice. And yet there's an integral part of the game that appears to have been left out. Shao-lin's Road wasn't exactly the best arcade game in the world, but it was pretty fun, frantic arcade action. Personally, I prefer things like Ya Kung Fu, but it's a variation on a theme. On the Amstrad, the game's quite fun. The power-ups are the best part of the game. It's enormous fun ploughing through a whole load of enemies with the giant spiky ball. Don't know what the proper name for it is, but that's really nice. Tune's a little bit repetitive, screen's a little bit narrow, but there's some decent gameplay to be had here. It's not going to have any long-term appeal, but it's quite decent. Again, on the Spectrum, same thing as the Amstrad version, really. There's a little bit of gameplay there. It's not a stayer for sure, but it's still a decent game. C64 version looks really promising, has all the elements there, and they've left the power-ups out. And as I say, the power-ups in the Amstrad version are the most fun part of the game, ploughing through all those enemies with the different power-ups, and it's completely lacking. And that is just shoddy, which means that instead of being a really good game that you definitely must play on the C64, it's a bit of a duffer.